Far away, in a quiet part of China, there is a place surrounded by rumors and fear. To most people, it looks ordinary, just a stretch of land with old buildings, guarded fences, and patrols that never let anyone close. But to the locals, this spot is anything but normal. They whisper about strange sounds in the night, about military trucks that drive in through the gates but never seem to come back out. For decades, people in nearby villages have wondered what lies beneath that ground. The mystery begins with silence. The area is sealed off, and even those living nearby know better than to ask too many questions. Soldiers are always watching, and anyone who tries to take photos or get too close is quickly warned away. But the fear doesn't come from the guards. It comes from the unknown, the feeling that something unnatural is hidden just out of sight. Some locals claim they've heard low, mechanical rumbles beneath their feet, as though giant machines are turning deep underground. On cold nights, when the wind is still, strange vibrations shake windows in houses miles away. Families tell stories of children who went near the restricted zone and returned home pale, refusing to speak of what they saw. One farmer said he saw a line of trucks late at night, each covered with tarps, escorted by armed soldiers. He counted at least 20 trucks disappear through the gates. By sunrise, they had not come back. What could they have been carrying? Where did it all go? Another man, a worker once assigned to construction near the area, swore he heard screams echoing from a vent in the ground. At first, he thought it was his imagination, but when he mentioned it to others, they warned him never to repeat it again. Weeks later, he was transferred to another province without explanation. The stories pile up, strange lights flickering across the sky above the site, guards wearing protective gear for no clear reason, and helicopters circling late into the night. For the people who live nearby, it's impossible to ignore. Something dangerous is being kept there, something that was never meant to be seen. Rumors spread far beyond the local villages. Some say the site is an underground bunker from the Cold War, a place built to survive nuclear war. Others whisper about experiments, projects so dark and so secret that even mentioning them feels dangerous. What if the government is hiding the results of failed experiments? What if something alive is down there? Over the years, a few daring explorers have tried to get closer. Some disappeared and were never heard from again. Others came back shaken, refusing to speak of what they found. One man, a traveler who claimed to have reached the outer wall, said he felt as though he was being watched from the ground itself. The air was heavy, he said, like the earth was hiding something that wanted to come out. As the years passed, the legend of the bunker only grew stronger. Articles appeared online, claiming satellite images showed hidden entrances disguised as hills or warehouses. Videos popped up on obscure websites, showing flashes of tunnels and steel doors. Most were quickly removed, but not before they were shared by people who believed the truth was being covered up. And then there are the whispers from former workers, people who left China and spoke only in fragments. They described vast underground chambers, laboratories filled with strange equipment, and sealed-off tunnels no one was allowed to enter. One worker claimed entire levels of the bunker were abandoned after something went wrong. He never explained what that meant, but the fear in his eyes was enough to convince people he was telling the truth. The mystery of the bunker is more than just a story. It is a shadow that stretches across decades, across generations. People who live near the site avoid talking about it. Children are told to stay far away, and travelers who pass through the region are warned not to ask questions. But the silence only makes it worse, because silence means secrets. And when a place is guarded so closely, with rumors of experiments and strange noises that never stop, people begin to imagine the worst. Could it be a biological lab where dangerous viruses were created and tested? Could it be a genetics program where humans were subjects in experiments not meant to be known? Or could it be something even darker, something not entirely human, locked away beneath the earth, waiting? No one knows for certain. All they know is that whatever lies beneath that ground, it has been hidden for years, perhaps for decades. And if the truth ever came out, it might terrify the world. The mystery of the bunker isn't just about a building or a military base. It's about fear. The fear of what governments hide. The fear of experiments that cross the line. The fear that somewhere deep below the earth, something is waiting. And so the story begins, not with answers, but with questions. Questions that echo in the silence of the guarded fences, questions that no one dares to ask aloud. Because in China, beneath that bunker, something is waiting, and they've done everything in their power to make sure the world never finds out. If you ask the people living in the villages near the bunker, they'll tell you that the land itself feels different. It isn't just the high fences or the armed patrols that make them uneasy. It's the little things, the strange signs that something unnatural is going on beneath the surface. For years, farmers have said the ground sometimes shakes without warning, not like an earthquake. There are no tremors recorded on official charts, but small, deep vibrations that rattle dishes in cupboards and make the livestock restless. Cows will moo loudly, dogs will bark in fear, and chickens will flap wildly as if a predator is nearby. The people describe it as though giant machines are grinding beneath the soil, or as though something alive is moving far below their feet. At night, strange lights flicker in the sky above the restricted zone. They don't look like stars, and they don't move like planes. Some flash bright white, others pulse with an eerie blue glow. Locals who have seen them say the lights hover for minutes at a time before fading into the darkness. No explanation is ever given. Officially, nothing unusual is happening there, but the people know better. Even more disturbing are the disappearances. Over the years, a handful of workers, truck drivers, and laborers who were sent to the site never came home. Their families were told they were transferred or that they left voluntarily, but no one ever saw them again. Whispered stories suggest they went inside the bunker and never returned. Their names quietly vanish from records as if they never existed at all. One story, often retold in hushed tones, is about a truck driver who lived in a nearby town. He delivered supplies to the base late one night, wooden crates stamped with strange symbols. His friends said he seemed nervous, but he promised he'd be back by morning. He never returned. His truck was later found parked miles away, keys still in the ignition, but the man himself had disappeared. To this day, his family believes he never left the bunker. Another tale comes from a group of construction workers. They were repairing roads not far from the restricted zone when they noticed a thick mist rising from the ground. The air smelled metallic, almost chemical. Within hours, several workers fell ill with burning throats and fevers. Officials quickly sealed the area, and the workers were told never to speak about it again. Those who did say they were watched for months afterward. Animals too seemed to sense something unnatural. Hunters claim deer avoid the entire region, circling wide around the fenced areas. Birds fly overhead but never land near the site. Dogs refuse to approach the gates, whining and pulling at their leashes if anyone tries to drag them closer. Even insects seem fewer in number, as though nature itself avoids the place. There are also the sounds. Some nights, villagers say they hear faint humming carried on the wind, low, mechanical, and steady, as though huge machines are running beneath the ground. Other times, the sounds are sharper, metallic clangs, echoing booms, or what some swear are screams. Those who hear it describe it as faint but unmistakable, the cries of something trapped deep below. To make things stranger, outsiders who try to visit the area are quickly turned away. Journalists, researchers, even curious travelers who come too close are met by guards who tell them firmly, "Leave immediately." Some who persisted say they were followed for days afterward, watched by unmarked cars and strangers who seem to know their every move. And yet, despite the danger, people keep talking. The mystery is too great to ignore. Stories spread online, passed from forum to forum, each one painting a darker picture of what could be happening beneath that ground. Some say the vibrations are from giant drills, digging deeper tunnels. Others believe they are from containment systems, massive machines built to hold something inside, something that should never be released. One particularly chilling rumor comes from a former soldier who claimed he was stationed near the site decades ago. He said the bunker was more than just a base. It was a research facility, one where scientists tested things that did not belong in this world. He never gave details, but he admitted that every few weeks, entire teams of soldiers went into the bunker and never came out. Their names were erased. Their families told they had died in accidents. It's these patterns of strange sounds, of missing people, of lights in the sky, that build a picture far darker than any official story could explain. If this were just an old military site, why the secrecy? If it were simply abandoned, why guard it so heavily? And why, after so many years, do the strange signs only seem to grow stronger instead of fading away? Locals believe the bunker is alive in its own way. Not alive like a person, but alive like something waiting, something restless beneath the soil. Every vibration, every flicker of light, every disappearance feels like a warning. A warning that what lies below was never meant to be seen, and never meant to be free. The people living nearby have learned to stay quiet. They avoid the area, keep their heads down, and warn their children never to wander close. But in their hearts, they all wonder the same terrifying thing. What if, one day, whatever is down there finally finds a way out? For most people, the bunker is nothing more than a rumor. They've seen the fences, the warning signs, and the guards, but no one outside the military has ever truly seen what lies beyond. Yet scattered stories whispered by those who work close to the site or caught a rare glimpse paint a chilling picture of how someone might enter the hidden facility. It begins with the gates. Locals say there are several checkpoints scattered along old dirt roads that cut through the forest. These gates aren't marked on maps. They are simple but intimidating. Tall metal barriers, motion sensors, and armed guards posted at all times. If a stranger approaches, the guards appear almost instantly, stepping out from hidden shacks or vehicles parked just out of sight. They don't explain themselves. They don't negotiate. They simply order you to leave. But beyond these gates lies something far more unsettling. Villagers who work construction near the site say there are camouflage doors built into the hillsides, massive slabs of reinforced steel covered with dirt, rocks, and even fake vegetation. From a distance, they look like part of the mountain itself, but when the sun hits at the right angle, the outline becomes visible, sharp and unnatural, like a scar in the land. Some claim they've seen these doors open. Heavy machinery rumbles, the ground vibrates, and the disguised wall splits down the middle, revealing a yawning black tunnel that disappears deep underground. Trucks roll in and out, carrying crates stamped with strange warning symbols. The workers who saw this say the cargo was never ordinary. Some crates leaked a faint glowing liquid, others emitted a steady hum as if powered by something inside. Once inside, the entrance supposedly leads to a vast tunnel system. Imagine a highway, but buried beneath the earth. The tunnels are wide enough for military vehicles, their walls lined with steel beams and thick pipes that snake into the shadows. Bright industrial lights hang overhead, but many flicker or buzz, giving the whole place a feeling of unease. The deeper you go, the more the air changes. It becomes cooler, denser, and filled with a faint metallic taste, like blood in the mouth. Former workers, those rare few who spoke before vanishing, said there are multiple security layers. First are the gates and disguised doors. Then, miles inside, come giant blast-proof barriers, each one sealed with electronic locks and guarded by soldiers. At every checkpoint, IDs are checked, faces scanned, and questions asked. One wrong answer, and you're removed. And when someone is removed inside that bunker, they don't come back. What lies past those checkpoints is where the stories turn from unsettling to terrifying. One man claimed he was hired to deliver building materials, just concrete and metal beams. He was allowed to drive inside the first tunnel, escorted the entire time. He remembered passing through 3 security gates before finally unloading his cargo in a massive underground chamber. The chamber was unlike anything he'd ever seen, hundreds of feet wide, with ceilings so high they disappeared into shadows. In the center of the room stood a circular shaft that dropped straight into the earth, surrounded by heavy machinery. Workers lowered sealed containers down into the darkness, while others stood by with clipboards, carefully recording every movement. The driver was ordered to unload quickly and leave. He never went back, but he never forgot the sound, something faint echoing from the shaft, like a distant roar. Another chilling detail comes from rumors among soldiers. They say there is more than one entrance. Some are in the hills, some hidden in old factory buildings that were supposedly abandoned. One story tells of a forgotten railway tunnel sealed years ago, but secretly connected to the bunker. Trains loaded with supplies would vanish into the mountain, never to emerge again. The railway maps were erased, but old workers remembered the tracks leading underground. The entrances aren't just physical, though. Locals believe there are hidden surveillance networks, cameras disguised as rocks, motion sensors buried in the soil, even drones that patrol the skies at night. One villager swore he saw a drone with no sound at all, hovering silently above his farm, its red eye fixed on him before darting back toward the restricted zone. It left him shaken for weeks, convinced that even thinking about the bunker was enough to make him a target. And yet, despite the secrecy, people keep trying to uncover the truth. Explorers, urban adventurers, and conspiracy hunters have all attempted to find the hidden entrances. Most never make it past the outer fences. Some are caught and interrogated, their equipment confiscated. A few disappear entirely, their families left with no answers. The rare few who escape tell haunting stories of being followed for days afterward, their phones tapped, their houses searched. One explorer wrote online about sneaking close to what he thought was an abandoned service tunnel. The entrance was half covered by vines, rusted metal doors barely visible beneath the growth. But when he touched the handle, he said it was warm. Too warm for something buried in shade. Then, without warning, a loud metallic clang echoed from within, like something striking the doors from the inside. Terrified, he fled, swearing never to return. His post vanished days later, deleted without explanation. Perhaps the most terrifying detail of all is the sense that these entrances aren't just hiding a military project. The heavy doors, the endless security, the secrecy, it feels less like they're protecting something inside from outsiders, and more like they're protecting the outside world from whatever is inside. The tunnels aren't just designed to keep people out, they're designed to keep something in. And that leads to the darkest question of all. What could possibly require this much security, this much secrecy, and this many hidden entrances? If it were just weapons or documents, why bury them so deep? If it were just machines, why guard them as though they were alive? The locals who live in the shadows of the bunker believe the entrances are not doors at all, but cages. Cages built to hold something humanity was never meant to see. And the longer those doors stay shut, the louder the world begins to wonder, what happens if one day they finally open? The further you go into the bunker, the more the world above feels like a fading memory. The fresh air, the sunlight, the sound of birds, it all disappears the moment you step past those giant metal doors. In their place comes a silence so heavy it presses against your chest, broken only by the constant hum of unseen machinery echoing through the walls. Those who claim to have entered, even briefly, describe the same first impression: darkness. Not just the absence of light, but a kind of darkness that feels alive, creeping into your thoughts. The lights installed in the tunnels flicker constantly, casting long shadows that twist and stretch across the walls. Each step forward feels like trespassing into a place where human beings do not belong. Inside, the corridors are long and endless, their walls made of smooth gray concrete reinforced with steel. Thick pipes run along the ceilings, dripping with condensation. Strange symbols and warnings are stenciled on the walls in faded red paint, words in Chinese, alongside universal hazard signs for radiation, biohazards, and high voltage. Some warnings are scratched out, as if someone tried to erase what was once written there. The air is cold and damp, filled with a faint metallic tang as though the very atmosphere is poisoned. The deeper you walk, the more oppressive it becomes. It's not just the temperature dropping, it's the feeling of being swallowed by the earth, layer by layer until the surface world is nothing but a dream. Explorers who managed to sneak inside describe eerie details. One man claimed he found a series of side corridors branching from the main tunnel, each leading to smaller rooms. These rooms looked like laboratories. He described cracked glass tanks, some still filled with a cloudy yellowish liquid. Floating in the murky fluid were objects that looked disturbingly organic, shapes that could have been animals, or perhaps once human, but twisted into grotesque forms. Their outlines were faint, but just visible enough to suggest something unnatural had been preserved. Tables were lined with restraints, metal cuffs rusted shut, as if whoever was once strapped there had struggled desperately to escape. In one corner of a room, a rusted chair sat beneath a set of dangling wires, their ends scorched black, The explorers swore it looked like some kind of experiment chair, designed to conduct electricity straight into the body. He left quickly after seeing that, but not before noticing the floor beneath the chair was stained dark brown. Others mentioned sounds inside the bunker, not the mechanical hum, something else. In certain hallways, you can hear scratching from behind the walls. Sometimes it's faint, like nails dragging across metal. Other times it's sharp and sudden, as though something slammed against the concrete from the other side. Guards and workers ignore it, walking past without reaction. But for outsiders, the sound is impossible to forget. Deeper still, the rooms become more unsettling. Some describe medical theaters, with raised platforms for observers. Dust-covered clipboards hold records filled with symbols and codes no one can understand. The dates, however, are clear, some as recent as just a few years ago, which means the facility is not abandoned, as many hoped. It is still active. One disturbing detail comes from a former worker who leaked his story before vanishing. He described the cages. According to him, a section of the bunker was filled with reinforced enclosures, built from thick steel bars and triple-locked doors. Each cage had a number, painted in white. Some were empty, but others had chains bolted to the walls, along with scratch marks across the floor, deep grooves that no human fingernails could have made. He said the cages were not for prisoners. They were for experiments. When asked what kind of experiments, he only said, not animals, not humans, something in between. Rumors swirl about strange biological projects. Some say scientists were attempting to merge human DNA with other species. Others claim the bunker housed failed cloning experiments. Soldiers grown in tanks but twisted by unnatural mutations. The most terrifying theory is that the facility was not creating life, but containing it. Things discovered deep underground. Things that should never have seen the light of day. Explorers also mention journals and notes left behind, but heavily redacted. Pages filled with equations, sketches of bizarre skeletal structures, and diagrams of humanoid figures with elongated limbs. One sketch showed a creature with no eyes, its mouth wide and sharp with jagged teeth. Beneath the drawing was a single handwritten word, Chunggong, success. Even worse are the whispers about voices. Some who ventured inside claim that in the deepest tunnels, you don't just hear noises, you hear whispers. Not in Chinese, not in English, but in a language that no one can recognize. The voices seem to come from everywhere at once, bouncing off the walls, seeping into your head. Some explorers said they left the bunker hearing those whispers long after they escaped, as though the bunker itself had followed them out. There are also signs the experiments were not always under control. Scorch marks stain the walls of certain rooms, as though fires had erupted from nowhere. Doors are bent outward as if something inside forced its way through. Broken cameras hang from ceilings, their lenses shattered. And always, there are the stains, dark smears on the floors and walls, impossible to mistake for anything but blood. It becomes clear, the deeper you go, that the bunker was more than just a military project. It was a place where the laws of nature were bent, where ethics were abandoned, and where humanity itself was reshaped into something unrecognizable. And yet, for all the horrors scattered across those rooms, there is an even greater terror waiting further below. Because the bunker doesn't just hold failed experiments, it holds something still alive. And according to those who barely escaped, once you reach that level, you understand why the entrance doors are so thick, why the guards are so strict, and why the bunker was built so deep underground. It wasn't to protect the secrets from the people, it was to protect the people from the secrets. By the time explorers or workers reached the lower levels of the bunker, they already felt like they had stepped out of the human world. But what came next was something else entirely. Something that no one was supposed to see. The first sign that you've entered a different part of the facility is the air. It changes. It becomes thicker, heavy with the scent of chemicals, rot, and something sweet and metallic, almost like spoiled fruit mixed with blood. Breathing is harder here, and some describe coughing violently the moment they crossed into the restricted chambers. Masks were found hanging by the doors, old and stained, as if those who once worked there needed constant protection. These rooms weren't like the abandoned laboratories above. They weren't covered in dust. They looked used. Tables were still set up with vials and instruments, sharp surgical tools neatly arranged on metal trays. Lights glowed faintly in some corners, powered by generators humming beneath the floor. It was clear someone had been here not long ago, and then came the evidence of what they were doing. Glass tanks stretched along the walls, taller than a person, filled with thick, bubbling liquid. At first glance, the liquid seemed empty, but if you watched long enough, shadows moved within. Shapes floated up, pale and distorted, pressing against the glass before sinking back into the depths. Some looked human, arms, legs, a face, but others had twisted features, elongated jaws, eyes too large or misplaced, limbs bent at impossible angles. One explorer swore he saw a figure with gills carved into its neck, twitching as though it were still alive. Another described something far worse, a body that looked completely human except for its skin, which was transparent. You could see the organs inside, pulsing faintly, still moving. He ran before he could confirm if it was breathing. Cages lined the far walls of another chamber. Unlike the rusty, abandoned cages higher up, these were reinforced with modern steel, thicker and newer. Heavy padlocks sealed the doors, and inside the floors were scratched deeply, as if something with claws had tried again and again to break free. The scratch marks weren't random. They formed patterns, almost like writing carved into the steel by something intelligent. And then there were the records. Notebooks scattered across desks filled with diagrams and sketches, pages of anatomy. Human skeletons drawn alongside animal bones, their structures merged into unnatural hybrids. Words in Chinese marked each page, with occasional English phrases: prototype, test subject. Weaponized, one document listed numbers, dates, subject codes, and one haunting column labeled survival time. Some numbers were marked in minutes, others in hours. Very few lasted days. Rumors spread of attempts to create the perfect soldier. Experiments that combined human DNA with animal traits, strength, speed, heightened senses. The idea was to craft soldiers who could fight in any condition, survive wounds that would kill ordinary men, and obey without question. But the results weren't soldiers. They were nightmares. One testimony from a former guard, posted briefly online before being deleted, claimed that sometimes the experiments did survive. He wrote of a creature that looked like a man but was impossibly tall, its skin pale as bone, veins black and swollen across its body. It had no hair, its eyes pitch black, and when it opened its mouth, the jaw unhinged wider than humanly possible. The guards swore the creature was caged, but it never stopped moving, pacing back and forth, its claws raking against the bars with a sound that still haunted his dreams. Even more terrifying are the whispers of Batch 73. Several explorers found references to this number across multiple documents. Batch 73 appeared to be a group of test subjects who survived longer than expected. The notes described them as stable mutations. No one knows what happened to them, but many believe they were transferred deeper into the bunker, beyond the levels most people ever reached. It wasn't just biological experiments either. Machines stood in some rooms, massive humming devices with wires and restraints attached. They looked like torture instruments, designed to pump electricity or chemicals into a body. One explorer described a room with walls covered in mirrors, the floor stained with dark splatters. The mirrors, he said, were cracked from the inside. Whatever was restrained there had shattered the glass, trying to escape its own reflection. And yet, the most disturbing part wasn't the experiments themselves, it was the feeling that they weren't abandoned. In several accounts, explorers reported hearing movement in the labs, not footsteps, but slow dragging sounds, like something pulling itself across the floor. Others described faint breathing, heavy and ragged, coming from the shadows of the cages. One explorer swore he saw condensation on the glass of a tank, as if something inside had exhaled. Even the workers who built parts of the bunker told chilling stories. Some said shipments arrived in the middle of the night, large crates labeled with nothing but numbers. They were told never to ask what was inside. But one man claimed he heard scratching from within the crate as it was lowered into the facility. Another said he saw liquid leaking from one, glowing faintly in the dark. And then there were the disappearances. Workers who asked too many questions simply never returned. Guards rotated constantly, but those stationed near the lower levels never came back after their shift. Families were told they were transferred, but no one ever saw them again. The conclusion is horrifying, but unavoidable. The bunker wasn't just a research site, it was a breeding ground, a place where human curiosity and cruelty collided, creating things that were never meant to exist. Some were failures, left to rot in tanks. Others were destroyed when they became too dangerous. But a few survived. And that's where the real terror begins. Because if they survived, where are they now? Still locked in the deepest cages? Still floating in hidden tanks? Or worst of all, have some of them already escaped, moving silently through the tunnels, waiting for the next time the doors open? The experiments weren't just revealed, they were warnings. Warnings scratched into the walls, whispered through the halls, and left behind in bloodstains no one bothered to clean. The message was clear. Whatever was created down here was never meant to see the surface world. But secrets don't stay buried forever. And if even one of those experiments escaped the cages, the entire reason for hiding this bunker would be revealed, not as protection for the government, but protection for all of us. Every step deeper into the bunker feels like a step further away from safety. By now, the explorers or workers or whoever dared to enter have already seen enough to shake them for life. The cages, the tanks, the sketches of things that should not exist. But the real horror wasn't behind glass or locked in documents. It was alive. The lower levels were different from the rest of the bunker. The walls weren't clean concrete anymore. They were scarred, claw marks etched deep into the surface, long and jagged, as though something massive had scraped through them again and again. The air grew warmer here, heavy with the stench of rot, the humming of machinery, constant in the upper levels faded into silence. It was too quiet, like the facility itself was holding its breath. Some say this level wasn't lit at all. The lights were either broken or deliberately turned off, leaving only emergency lamps glowing red along the walls. The shadows here didn't just flicker, they swallowed everything, stretching out like black fog. The deeper you walked, the more you felt watched. Not by cameras, not by guards, by something alive hiding in the dark. The first sign came as a sound, a faint drip of water somewhere far away. Then a low scraping noise, slow and deliberate, echoing through the hall. The explorers froze, listening, their flashlights shaking as the noise grew louder. It wasn't random, it was pacing. Something was moving, and then they smelled it. A foul odor, thick and overwhelming, like a mix of sulfur and decaying flesh. The stench was so strong some gagged immediately. The air felt heavier, harder to breathe. Whatever was nearby wasn't just alive, it carried death with it. They turned a corner and saw it. At first they thought it was a man, tall, gaunt, with a body shaped almost like theirs. But as the flashlight beam steadied, the truth became clear. Its skin was gray and stretched tight over its bones, veins black and swollen like vines crawling under the surface. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the light with an animal hunger. Its mouth hung open, wider than human jaws should allow, lined with rows of jagged teeth that glistened wet. It didn't set move at first, it just stood there in the middle of the corridor, head tilted slightly, as though studying them. One explorer whispered, trembling, "Is that one of the experiments?" Then the creature inhaled, a deep guttural sound that rattled the walls, and it began to walk toward them. The group panicked. Flashlights darted wildly, footsteps pounding as they stumbled backward. But the thing didn't rush. It moved slowly, deliberately, as if it knew there was no escape. Every step echoed with a sickening scrape of claws against concrete. One explorer swore the creature whispered as it moved. Not words they could understand, something guttural, wet, like voices layered on top of each other. Another insisted it was laughing. A broken, hollow laugh that sent ice down their spines. They fled into another chamber, hoping to lose it, but the chamber was worse. This room was filled with broken tanks, glass shattered across the floor, liquid pooling in dark puddles. The smell was unbearable. And scattered across the room were remains, Bones, torn clothing, scraps of metal restraints. Whatever had been kept here wasn't just dead, it had been fed upon. And then the creature entered, crawling this time, its limbs bending unnaturally as it pulled itself through the doorway. The explorers screamed, some fumbling with cameras, others clutching pipes or sticks as makeshift weapons. But the truth was clear. They weren't supposed to be there. They weren't supposed to see this. The encounter turned into chaos. One flashlight fell, rolling across the floor, its beam shining directly onto the creature's face. For the first time, they saw it clearly. Its skin wasn't just gray, it was scarred, stitched in places, as though someone had pieced it together from different bodies. Its eyes were milky but still glowing faintly, burning with hunger. And when it opened its mouth fully, the jaw split down to its neck, revealing rows of teeth like shattered glass. It lunged. The room exploded with screams and crashing metal. The explorers scattered, one barely dodging as the creature's claws slammed into the wall, leaving a crater in the concrete. Another stumbled, falling to the floor, only to be dragged up by a companion just in time. The creature roared, an inhuman, guttural scream that shook the chamber. Some say they escaped only because of luck. Pipes burst overhead, releasing a hiss of steam that clouded the room. In the confusion, the group bolted through another corridor, the sound of claws scraping close behind. They ran without direction, guided only by terror, until finally they found a stairwell. They didn't stop to question it, they just climbed, lungs burning, hearts pounding. But not everyone made it. In nearly every account, one explorer is always missing. No one knows if they fell, were taken, or stayed behind. The survivors refuse to talk about it. Some say the missing were dragged back into the darkness. Others whisper that the bunker keeps one person every time, as if it demands a sacrifice. Even when they reached the upper levels, the group never felt safe again. They claimed the creature didn't chase them beyond a certain point, as though confined to its level. But the sound followed them, scraping, breathing, whispering, until the final door slammed shut behind them. And still, when they emerged into the night air, trembling and broken, some swore they could hear it faintly, a low, distant echo rising from deep within the earth. They didn't just encounter something in that bunker, they had seen what was never meant to escape. A living experiment, abandoned yet alive, waiting for the day the doors would open again. When the explorers finally stumbled out of the bunker, gasping for fresh air, it should have felt like victory. They had survived the impossible. But for those who made it back, survival didn't feel like freedom. It felt like a curse. Because once you've seen the truth, you can never unsee it. For days, even weeks, they couldn't sleep. Every time they closed their eyes, they saw the creature again, its pale, scarred skin, its jaw splitting open too wide, those glowing, hungry eyes burning in the dark. Worse, they heard it, that sound, a scraping noise, claws dragging across concrete. Sometimes it echoed faintly in their dreams. Other times they swore they heard it outside their homes, in the middle of the night. Some explorers refused to talk at all. They deleted their footage, destroyed their notes, and swore they would never mention the bunker again. Others tried to share what they had seen, posting fragments of their story online. But almost as quickly as they appeared, those stories vanished. Deleted, accounts shut down. Families reported strange cars parked near their homes. Watching, phones clicked with interference, as though tapped. It became obvious that someone or something didn't want the truth getting out. And yet, enough whispers remain that the picture becomes clear. The bunker wasn't just a military experiment. It wasn't just about creating soldiers or weapons. It was a cage for things that never should have existed. Some of the experiments were created by human hands, splicing DNA, warping biology, fusing man and beast in search of power. But others might not have been human at all. Documents mention discovered specimens found deep underground during mining or excavation. Strange bodies that didn't match any known species. Skeletons with skulls too large, jaws filled with too many teeth. Bones shaped in ways no evolution on Earth should allow. Instead of destroying them, the bunker preserved them. And then the scientists tried to improve them. The result? Creatures that were neither fully human nor fully alien, neither natural nor artificial. They were something in between, something the world was never meant to see. That explains the cages, the reinforced doors, the endless layers of security. The bunker wasn't designed to protect secrets from outsiders. It was designed to protect outsiders from what was inside. But here sits the part that unsettles survivors the most. The creature they saw was only one living experiment in one dark chamber. But the facility is massive, tunnels stretching for miles, levels that go deeper than anyone has ever mapped. If there was one, how many others are down there? 5, 10, hundreds? Entire colonies of nightmares waiting in the dark. And worse, what if some of them aren't waiting anymore? There are rumors of missing people in the regions surrounding the bunker. Workers who vanish during night shifts, farmers who never return from their fields, entire truck convoys that drive toward the mountains but are never seen again. The official reports always blame accidents or criminal activity. But those who know the truth wonder, are these disappearances linked to what's buried underground? One explorer said it best before he vanished. The bunker isn't just abandoned. It just alive. The walls breathe, the shadows move, and the creatures aren't set trapped. They were watching. Perhaps the most chilling realization of all is this. If the bunker is just one site, how many others exist? If one secret facility in China could hide such horrors, what about Russia's frozen wastelands, America's deserts, underground chambers beneath mountains across the world? What if this isn't just China's secret? What if it's a global one? Governments know, they deny, they erase, they silence. But silence can't erase claw marks in concrete. Silence can't erase the nightmares etched into the eyes of those who escaped. And silence can't protect the world forever. The truth is this, something was created or uncovered in that bunker. Something humanity isn't ready to face. And one day, whether by accident or by intention, those doors will open again. And when they do, the things inside won't be contained anymore. The explorers who made it out alive know this in their bones. Some try to move on. Others vanish, either by choice or by force. But a few still whisper warnings, desperate for someone to listen. They know what lies beneath. They know it's only a matter of time. Because secrets don't stay buried forever. And the deeper they're hidden, the harder they strike when they finally come to light. So the next time you hear about a restricted zone, a sealed mountain, or a tunnel that leads nowhere, ask yourself, what are they really hiding? And more importantly, what's waiting for the day it's finally set free?